Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for a few minutes of fun. I'm going to make some tape today. I was having so much fun using some of the accidental tape from previous projects. I will link the videos down below where these tapes accidentally got made, that I thought I would do some deliberate tape making today. So it's going to be a kind of a masterboard where you create one piece with lots of different layers. There's going to be some stenciling, some stamping, and you don't really worry about what it is as a whole, because in the end you're going to be cutting it up. You cut up a masterboard into ATC backgrounds or tag backgrounds or strips of paper or whatever it might be, but I'm going to work as though I've got a whole sheet of tape. So I've got a couple of, these are just decorators masking tapes, and what I thought I would do, because it seems like the simplest thing, is tape them directly to my craft mat. You saw on those other pieces that when I store it just on some card. Yeah, and so I'm just going to create lengths of tape, pretty much all joined up. I'm going to leave myself a bit of space around the edge so that I can make a mess. I don't want to be going right to the edges of the mat, because then that leaves me nowhere to go in terms of making a mess. So yeah, I'm just going to put some strips of this. You can see they're not quite the same colour as each other. That's fine. I've got various Archival inks, PaperArtsy Fresco paints, some Tim Holtz stencils, some of my stencils. I've got some of my stamps, because I'm thinking Botanical tape is probably what I want. I might add in ephemera, so both from mine and probably Tim's sets. Yeah, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm sticking down strips of tape onto my craft mat. I'm going to carry on doing that till it's finished, and then I'll come back and we'll play. Right, there we go. Lots of strips of tape all glued down to my plastic craft mat, silicone craft mat. I've got a sponge, I've got lots of blending tools, and I'm gonna start without really thinking, because too much thinking just causes trouble. I'm thinking I sort of want to use maybe Archival ink on these, just because distressing, because it stays water reactive, will always be subject to moving once we use it. So paint and Archival ink is probably going to give me a slightly more permanent finish for when I'm using the tape in the future. And I don't really mind what thickness this tape is, because by and large when I use washi tape, tissue tape, decorative tape, I tend to rip it so that I'm not using full widths of what I've got. I just tend to create jagged edges. I like jagged edges on my tapes. So how wide these tapes are is really immaterial to me. But you can get decorators masking tape in all kinds of widths. So you can see I'm really not thinking very hard about this. I'm letting the stencil dance across the page. In places it's quite prominent, in other places it really isn't. And that's a good starting point for just creating some decoration across this. Quite pale, quite delicate, quite background kind of work. Might put a little bit of, what have we got here? Pebble Beach is what we've got there. So that so far has been a beach cruiser, and I think I used, the leaf green as opposed to the olive. I do use olive a lot. I love olive. So yeah, I'm just thinking I might fade in and out some of these. So if I can find myself the pattern. No, that one, the upright. Good. So I can just create a little extra layer of colour in between those two. I can layer some colour over here. So I'm just creating places where it's not all one colour. It's just blending in and out. That's rather pretty, actually. Quite like that. Let's see what happens over here if we just spread it out in this direction. Good, nice. It's a starting point. It's subtle and it's somewhere that I can build layers. I think I want a little bit of some of my grasses probably, and I might use some paint for this. Oh, you see, this is where I need a bit more palette space to play. Let's see, I've got some palette paper somewhere. Back in a sec. Here we are, a pad of palette paper, and that's just a water resistant surface that you can use. If you use watercolors on it, they'll dry and be reusable. That's some acrylic I use. So I just need somewhere to mix things up. When I'm not filming, this floor goes away and the whole of my desk is covered with silicone craft mat. And so I can just play wherever I like. I don't have to stop and think about things like how much space do I have to put my paint down. So let's turn these this way, because that's going to be quite helpful in terms of not judging too much about what goes where. This is PaperArtsy Fresco Finish in Lawn. I've got here some Blue Moon. I'm just putting them on the mat without, again, thinking too hard. Maybe a bit of Spring. Oh, that wasn't shaken up enough. That's just fluid. Let's take that out. Start again with a properly shaken can of paint. There we are. Good. So this I'm going to apply with a sponge. Again, pretty randomly across here. It's going to give me quite a soft background effect, but again, that's all I really want at the moment, because I'm going to build through to more detailed layers as I go. I could do this with a blending brush, a blending sponge. I could do this with a blending brush as well, come to that, thinking about it. Let's just get a little bit of earthiness on. Don't mind that, that's going to get stamped over. My sponge appears to be coming apart. That's unfortunate. I'm going to go in as many different directions as I can with this, and I'm just picking up the paint pretty randomly, so it's going to be the colour it is when it gets on there. So these sort of this meadowgrass stencil, just softly adding some background detailing, well, background softness, let's say. Look at this sponge coming to pieces. Going to have to chop it up so that I can get a fresh surface. Just nice, just easy, not thinking too hard. Let's have one going that way, just because we've got ones going in all the other direction. Nearly at the end of the paint now, so that's good. Let's use that up. Just adding in, yeah, let's have a little bit. I could have a little bit of the other one as well, couldn't I? So it's just, the sponge is just good for getting down into those little gaps in the stencil. There we go, that's quite nice. Good, and you can see it's pretty much entirely random. I'm going to have to clear away all this sponge onto the floor for now. That'll do. There it goes. And yeah, need a better, cleaner sponge next time around. So Tim Holtz calls his stencils layering stencils because they're designed to layer over one another. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a spritz of water onto this, just in case there's too much paint on there, and I don't think there's enough to make that not work in the future. But I'll pop that into a water tray somewhere over there. Let's see, what else do we want? Here's another little stencil, and this one I'm going to put on in, don't know, maybe a bit of beach cruiser would be nice through this, or stronger green. Let's put a bit of olive and maybe a bit of night sky. So I've got a blue brush here, and I'm just going to create a little bit of stencil texture through there. Nice. Ooh, there seems to have been something purpley on the sponge already, and got no problem with that. No issue at all with that as a addition. So I'm just gonna, I am just going to go over some of these grassy stems. So as you can see, that's just changing what happens. Nice easy layers, not too much thought, not too much stress, nothing that needs to get one's knickers in a twist. There's a good old-fashioned phrase for you. Oh, I seem to have dipped into the green now. Not to worry, that'll all be good. There we go. A little bit of that. Nice. Let's come up to this end. Just trying to keep an eye on the ends of things here so that I don't leave myself blank bits of tape. How's that? Good. So that was night sky and olive. Just kind of on a random brush. I'm not sure they were pure in colour, but I'm fine with it. Right, I think I want a bit of botanical stamping now, or maybe a bit of ephemera stamping first. Let's get some words on in the background. So all my ephemera, all my botanical stamps, as you probably know, have also got bits of ephemera and wordiness on, and I do like a bit of random wordiness. I'm probably more likely, when I'm working, to use horizontal strips of design tape. So I'm stamping that. This is quite subtle. This is Pebble Beach again, because at the moment I don't really want these words to be the main focus, and you can see I'm just rolling them on and off, so I'm getting random little snatches of this text. When I did these botanicals, these Culpeper remedies and recipes are all in a beautiful vintage, older than vintage, medieval font called Chapbook. Your chapbook was your daily place to record thoughts or get your prayers from, and so on and so forth. So the font in this just gives me lovely oldie worldy vibes. Shakespearean, which obviously is going to make me happy. So I'm just putting on some the other way up, so there are bits of text that are, and let me lift that up so you can see some of these layers building in that background. Nice, it's pretty, it's very pretty. Good, let's put you away before I lose you. I think I might use a bit of this Culpeper's herbal stamp as well, because it is a beauty, and we might do that in a slightly darker version, and I might do it as a whole stamping. Because this is going to get torn up into strips, it's never going to be the whole stamping in one place. Maybe we'll do that in coffee. It's going to be the first of our deeper browns. Let's have a little bit of that there. Nice. And it is a rough stamping. It's not perfect, and that's fine. And let's have a little bit of that there. And maybe let's have a little bit of that. Now I am peeling here and here. Good. And maybe here. just because I can. There's still some ink on it. Why not pop a bit more into place? I really am now feeling the need of something round. So I might start with, for instance, a bit of lid work, or I might go for one of my round pieces of ephemera, just something like that. It's going to be nice. What should we stamp it in? I think I might go for a combination of greens and blues again, because again I'm still working for background. None of this tape is going to be a focal feature, probably, when I use it. So it's not about creating something that's going to take the eye. It needs to be about creating something that's just going to add detail and delight somewhere along the line in whatever you're making. These are going to be partial stampings, obviously, once I peel the strips away. I feel like I want one somewhere in the middle. Yeah, there. Good. That's all good. What next? Some botanicals. It's really time for some botanicals, isn't it? Let's get you back in there, and let's get out some botanical leaves. And I think we might go in leaf green with you, nice and bright and vivid, just to create some. These are my AB40 pressed grasses, and they're gonna work beautifully to complement the stenciled grasses. I think I'm going to work with them kind of in conjunction with those stenciled grasses, because I think that's a lovely double to just have happening layered up, creating just those beautiful details. In a minute I'm going to change colour, and I'm going to stamp in maybe Beach Cruiser to get a little bit of variation on those grasses. Let's pop that through there. Oh, it's a pretty colour, Beach Cruiser, it really is. I just happened upon it and thought, oh, I think I could use that colour. And I'm so happy I did. Yeah, maybe one more down this edge. Look, it's kind of quite blank down here, so let's create a bit more interest and detail. And I might do a couple in the darker night sky as well, just because I do love this grass. It's got a sort of poetry to it. One of my favourite sketches of all time, based on real life grasses. I'm very much taken from, if you remember the watercolour grass portraits that we did, this sketch came straight from one of those. I'm really enjoying this sort of blank space here, but I'm gonna put something in it. Let's see, what'll it be? Maybe some Umbels. Do love me an Umbel, as you know. So these are the pressed Umbels. I think we might go with maybe these ones. You get a little sketchy one and a silhouette-y one in each version. What should we do? Let's do some green again. So I'm going to put on leaf green. I'm pressing down really firmly because I realised I didn't really press that stamp down properly. And then I'm going to take the olives, like darker olive, just up the stem. These might fall straight off. Yep, there we go. Need to clean the backs of them, and I need to clean. Yeah, look at that. It's because when I'm playing, I play, and then I play again. And things get inky and things get mucky, and then your stamps don't want to cling anymore. So a good cleaning, maybe also of the grid block, good firm pressure down. I've now got ink all over my fingers, but you know, that's always the sign of a good time, right? Inky fingers, painty fingers. Let's pop a little more of that in, and that's what I'm going to have coming through the middle here. Good. I'm going to go fully olive for the next one. It's really pretty. It's a really pretty stamp. Another of my favourite sketches. I'm not going to lie. It's they make me happy. I can see that these are quite summery tapes, so it could be that I'll make them and then we won't see them again until next year, because it's now, as I'm filming this, it's early September, early-ish September, and it could well be that these tapes won't get to come into use until we're back to next summer, because I am starting to have autumn twinges, but the leaves are still almost entirely green, local to me. So I'm not, as you can see, I'm not fully in autumn mode yet at all. I'm still very happily playing with summertime colours, summertime ideas, summertime possibilities. That's rather nice with those blue Umbels layered over that blue bit of stenciling. That's quite fun. Maybe another one down here. Beach Cruiser. Quite enjoying the Beach Cruiser at the moment. So I reckon we could go Beach Cruiser down here. There we are, lovely. And yeah, I'm enjoying these a lot, so they're going to come up here as well. Layered over the ephemera that time, and that's all good. As I say, this is just creating background stuff. I'm sort of inclined to see what happens if I put a little bit of watercolor colour on here as well. I have no idea. Let's see. I'm going to fetch it. So this really is what I'm talking about when I talk about playing. I don't know how well this is going to take on the masking tape surface, but I'm going to find out, and either it'll work or it won't work, and either way I'll have learned something, I'll have discovered something, and I'll be ready to do it differently or the same next time round. What's this? Cerulean blue chromium. Let's just put some colour on there in a beautiful loose watercolory way. And again, it's going to appear in certain places and not in others. I'm enjoying that quite a lot as it happens. So that's a rather beautiful blueness coming through there. Might let ourselves take a little turn for the autumnal. This is Moonglow, which has got a soft, dusky, misty look to it. Let's put a bit of that coming through in various places. I'm keeping it nice and soft and watery. Watercolours will dry paler than you put them on in any case, so this is really very subtle, and I'm just letting them catch and blend where we are. Let's have a little bit of Sleeping Beauty turquoise. Is that not the most beautiful name for a colour? Sleeping Beauty turquoise. So this is just creating, and here's where it's great that I went with my instinct and used Archival ink rather than Distress ink for that stenciling. If I'd used Distress ink, that stenciling would now be vanishing completely. But even where I've put really watery paint over it, that is staying beautifully soft and available. A little bit of spatter will create texture, so popping water into there, particularly on this masking tape surface, which is not intended, as you'll probably guess, not intended to take watercolour really. Masking tape, it's intended to protect your property when you're painting it. But we're artists and experimenters and crafters and makers, and if somebody gives us a product which we think we can use in our crafting world, we will use it. Oh, the colours of that are rather magical, aren't they? So I'm intensifying some of that colour because I'm enjoying it. I can always come back in and stamp again if I want to create some more stamping detail, but the colours of that are making me rather happy. I might spatter a little bit of this Sleeping Beauty turquoise. That's good texture. Nice. I might want to knock that bit back just a touch because it's quite full on, but I'm going to let it do its thing otherwise. And then I might do the same with this Moonglow. Moonglow is a magical colour made up of several pigments so that you get a variation of colour in every brush stroke, in every spatter. I seem to be whistling through my teeth today. Anybody noticing that besides me? I don't know. Good. That seems pretty nice to me. I might have to let it dry a little bit before going in with some more stamping. Don't really want to use the heat tool on it because the stickiness on the back of the... Just adding a bit of sap green in there. So what did we use? Cerulean blue chromium, Moonglow, Sleeping Beauty turquoise, and now I'm playing with a little bit of sap green into this mix in places. And of course it's creating a different colour over the paler masking tape. Over the warmer coloured masking tape, it is creating more of a warm green that, and a cool green elsewhere. Maybe another little delicate spatter of water. Where's my spatter brush? Because I think that's going to create some nice texture. And I might also, while I'm at it, while this paint is wet, I might give myself a little spatter of bleed-proof white ink. You could do this with acrylic paint by all means. I want the ink because it's right here, and I think it's going to do nice things as it mixes with that watercolour paint. So again, this is running by instinct. This is because I've played with these products before. and I play a lot. I'm just following a gut instinct, so I'm going to let that be a soft spatter, and later I'll come back when they're dry and I'll get myself a much firmer spatter which will stay put, but that's just giving me a nice opaque look. Right, time to let it dry just a little before I come back in and layer some more, I think probably botanical stamping. We'll see. Let me hold that up so you can see some of those layers and colours. And the thing with the masterboard is it's gonna look a hot mess while it's in process and on the thing. But once you start cutting this into pieces, it draws your attention to those little bits. And once I peel these strips away, each strip is going to have its own little individual bit of magic. Let's let it dry a bit. As will always happen with watercolours, those have faded a bit as they've dried. You can see they're not fully dry yet. There's still a little bit of wateriness going on, but really delicious. It's very interesting to me that some of the archival ink seems to have moved, and I'm wondering about that, whether that's because of the surface of the masking tape not being intended for this, which you could fix with a little coat of gesso beforehand. The paint is really beautifully stayed put. No, most of the archival is in place. So what I think I would quite like to do now is do a little bit more stamping, a little bit of refreshing of some of that stenciling. I also thought I'd use some of these numbers. I do love a good number in places. I think probably just in a grey might be the way to go with some of these numbers. Let's press that down. What have we got? Watering can. That'll do nicely. And I might use a couple more of these lovely Tim Holtz affairs as well. So some numbers here. Oh, that's very pale. Maybe I'm going to need to go as far as black. Goodness me. Or maybe it's just because I was stamping over some very wet watercolor. That might have been why. Yeah, that's taking okay in places. Again, it's subtlety I'm after. I don't want it fully in your face. I could let things dry a little more, but I'm too impatient. So maybe it's quite nice that this is going to sort of melt into the background a little bit. And you can see I'm going for some horizontals, I'm going for some verticals. Just creating that extra little bit of detailing in various places. I think it is because the watercolor's still wet underneath, but I'm gonna live with it. I'm gonna carry on playing. I do like this one. This is beautiful. It's similar to the one I've been using actually, but possibly a little bit more of an outline than a full-on piece of ephemera. So let's pop a little bit of that around. And then the other thing I think I want to do a bit of is some paint lid stamping, which I did say at the beginning we were going to do. I do like the circles. The circles give it a bit of geometric integrity. Integrity? Is that the word I'm after? Geometric detail over all the botanical stuff. So paint lid stamping. Going to paint myself a little bit of paint onto this palette paper. I would do it on the craft mat if I hadn't stuck tape all over my craft mat. That'll do for now. Then what I do is just spread it out with a paintbrush. I'm on camera, yes I am. And then I just, use a variety of paint lids. I do like the size of this one that came on the old-fashioned distress stains before they went only into spray formulation. And look, you can see that white highlight is immediately kicking into action. Quite random, but spaced out. I'm going sometimes for a whole stamping on a piece of tape, so you'll see the whole circle, but mostly I'm going for those sorts of partial awareness of that. But then not just the one colour. Give that a little wipe so that I get my seal again. I don't mean colour, I mean size, not just one size. So this is my Distress Ink Picket Fence refiller. re-inker, and that's got a beautiful little lid just to get me a different size of bubble. Bubbles of hope, bubbles of joy, bubbles of happiness. Could use all the bubbles we need, all the bubbles we can get at the moment. That's quite nice. And then while I've got that paint there, guess what I'm going to do with it? Anybody who's shouting spatter at the screen is spot on. So let's grab the spatter brush again. Just loosen up some of that paint. There's a little bit on that brush as well, so we'll pop him in the jar now. And just go with a, yes, gentle painty spatter. So as you can see, perfectly possible to spatter with acrylic paint. This is quite dilute, so it is sinking into the colours behind. If I wait till it's fully dry and go again with a slightly less diluted version, or I go with my bleed proof white, that'll get me more detail, more spatter presence. But yeah, that is sinking a little bit into the wet paint behind, but that's fine. It's all creating texture. Let's wipe that up. At some point soon I should stop, shouldn't I? Trouble with the masterboard is it's such a joy to just layer things in and see how it grows and how it builds. I might try giving this just a quick blast with the heat gun. As I say, I don't want to do too much with the heat gun because of affecting the adhesion behind. So far, whenever I've made accidental masking tape, it's been possible to peel it up and stick it back down again on whatever project. I'm thinking I'd like just a couple more bits of stamping detail. Maybe to refresh a couple of these. So this is back to the grass, and maybe a couple of these. I think it's probably good not to use too many different stamps. I think probably it's good to limit myself slightly. I don't know if you can see the light changing as the sun goes in and out behind clouds outside. So even though I've got the artificial light on, it's causing quite substantial changes to what I'm seeing in front of me as the sun goes in and out. That's really interesting. Why is that not stamping over that? Oh, and now look, I've got paint on my stamp. So that's a thing you want to get rid of. You can have as many layers of ink on your stamp as you like. It won't affect the stamping capabilities. But if you get acrylic paint down into the little gaps in any stamp and it dries there, that will change how the stamps, if you see what I mean. I sort of want to have a look at one of these strips by itself so that I can see what I'm getting, if you see what I mean. So sooner or later I'm going to have to peel something up and take a look. Oh, that's good, isn't it? Let's do one in Beach Cruiser as well. So some of these places where things have just got a little bit muddy, but muddy is also good. The colours here are gorgeous, so I'm not against it, but I just want to refresh a bit of detail. Again, a little bit of paint going into there because I've just done that spattering and I haven't fully dried, but it's all good. A little bit more text, I think. Where's my texty one gone? Oh, there it is. Yeah, let's get a bit of this and go coffee, because I think I quite like the brown. Just to refresh a little bit of that, which is now lost under layers and layers and layers and layers of other stuff. The joy of a masterboard. So just creating that detail again. So I think what I'll do, so that we get a sort of proper look at this, is I'll film a little bit of a close-up of all these layers now before I peel them away. And then I'll film some more close-up. I would love this as wrapping paper. I would love this as wrapping paper. The other thing I would love this as is bedding. I would love to have a duvet cover that looks pretty much exactly like this. The purples, the blues, the greens. In terms of natural light, I'm not sure what you're getting on this. It's another reason I think it's worth going for a close-up right now so that we can see into these depths. I'm going to do a little bit of maybe painty. Where's my paint? Maybe just a little touch. Oh, this is the blue moon again. Somewhere I thought I had inky pool. Where did the inky pool go? I put it away. Well, let's do this first. Just I might hate it. Maybe it's better to do the little one than this big pattern. I don't know. Sort of again, I'm following a little instinct here. Just to get a little bit of texture back in. Yeah, happy I did that. Let's put a little bit over here. And as you can see, I'm not going for a proper stenciling here. I'm just creating real rough hints of that lovely stencil design. And the blue moon is a nice highlight colour. So just going to be touches of it. Texture coming back in. Might do a little one as well. Let's go along here. Little hints of highlight texture. Let me show you what that's doing. Quite apart from anything else, I love the opacity of that over the watercolours in the background, which are of course gloriously translucent. So I think we might do just a little bit more of that kind of thing through the little one probably. Let's pop a little bit at the edges here. Nice. Possibly on camera you're not seeing very much of this. Another good reason to dive in for a close-up quite soon so you can see the effect of those lovely little stenciled highlights. Just little tiny moments of opaque geometric patterning amidst the botanical chaos. Botanical chaos. Good. Yeah, stop. You do at some point have to stop yourself. Again, just a little spritz of water on that if it's got a lot of paint going on, just to clear those edges and keep a nice sharp stencil outline. Grand. So what did I say I was going to do? I said I was going to do a little dive in close up of what we've got so far with them all together, so that then you can get the effect of what they're like as we peel them apart. So that's your little partway close up. I'm almost ready to peel these strips apart, but I thought I might like just a little bit of this crackle texture into the mix as well. So I think it's going to be a peel on, peel off affair. I think we might use the coffee because that's done quite a good thing where that text is. This crackle stamp is based on some real crackle texture that I did, and it is just perfect crackly, grungy goodness. And one of the reasons why I want it here is because I think it's got that sort of organic tree bark effect within it. So again, I'm just going to put this in a few places, and it's just going to give me that extra bit of detailing. Might even pop a bit over some of this stenciling, because that's rather nice. There we go. Just a little bit of, yeah, crackle, oldie worldy, grungy crackle hovering in the layers here. Let me see if I can show you a little bit of where that's happened. Just a little bit of crackle in there. Just a little bit of crackle. I kind of no idea where I put it now. Oh, there. Yeah, it's just giving me a little bit of detail, a little bit of delight. I really am going to stop now. Ooh, yeah, I say that. I am going to stop once I've done one last little bit of white spatter, because I can see now that this is drier than it has been any of the times when I put the previous spatter on. I'm now going to use my grid block as my palette, because I've put the palette paper somewhere else. Going to use a bit of the bleed proof white this time. Good old scabby spatter brush. And I'm going to try not to dilute too much. I'm going to try to, I did have the brush dipped in water, but what I want is just a little bit of white spatter that's going to stay put this time. There we go. Doesn't have to be everywhere, but it just gives us that little light catching lift. And if you feel like you've got too much going on, if there's a spat that's annoying you, then you just get in there with some kitchen towel before it gets too dry, and you can lift and create it just as a subtle background layer, as opposed to a ooh in your face top coat. But it does just give me that extra little bit of light delight. Grand. Let's do a bit of peeling this. So as you saw with the others, I have been storing my tapes on other pieces of card. This is some of my cheap watercolor paper. And let's do a little bit of magic peeling and revealing. Let's have a look at, well, I'm sort of think I should take one out of the middle first, because that's going to give us a look at both. So when I'm peeling masking tape up off paper, I'm quite careful to not lift straight away, but to peel back in this direction. And although this is not paper, I think it's still quite a good way of getting a clean peel. And what I don't want is to have it stick to itself. You can see it's still really sticky. You can get low tack decorators masking tape. I'm looking forward to playing with these. So I'm going to store that there, just like so. And we'll take a look at these again in close up in a minute. Let's go for the next peel. And then when I've done these first in between peels, one here, one there, one here, one here, I really like it from the back as well. It's got a subtle translucence from the back that's really rather nice. Don't know if you can see that compared to on the front. Let's put that piece there. These are nice. Good. Next piece. Oh, look, it so happens that so far I'm alternating thick and thin, because I didn't put them on. But you can see now it's also revealing. This is the joy of a peel and reveal on one of those quartet projects that some of my previous masking tape came from. But it's also the joy of when you cut up a masterboard into ATC shapes or backgrounds, the point at which you start to see individual elements come back. When you look at this sheet as a whole, as I say, it can look a hot mess. But as soon as I start to peel it apart and break up those connected areas, you start to get a sense of individual elements within it. This is saying Monet to me. Is it saying Monet to anybody else? It's to do with the colours, it's to do with the botanicals, it's to do with the translucence of lily pond. He had a lily pond in his garden that he painted again and again and again and again. And I do also return to these colours, these motifs, these botanical delights, as you know. Not where I started out. Started out very grungy, very sort of mechanical, and those things do still come back. You see it in my love of rusty wire, my love of grungy textures like crackle, and we'll undoubtedly dive back into some grunginess at times. I'm also really enjoying what's going on the craft mat here. A bit sad I'm going to have to wash it away. It would make a lovely print in and of itself. That's a beauty. And one more thick one. So as I say, I'm quite likely to rip this up when I use it, create long vertical tears through it. But it might be a while before I do that, because I'm going to have to spend some time admiring the results. Grand. So I will dive in for a close-up on these sheets so that you get to see these strips of handmade decorated tape layered out of a masterboard of plain old builders decorators tape. If I move these along a bit, it'll make, oh, that's interesting. So some of that paint has gone through. Look at that. I'm just thinking if I move these over. Yeah, but you don't need to watch me do that. So I hope you've enjoyed today's few minutes of fun. I hope you'll be inspired to have a little play with some decorative tape of your own. Whatever stamps, whatever stencils, whatever colours you use, do something that's going to bring you joy. It doesn't have to be the same colours and the same stamps I've been using. Get out your supplies and have a play. You might need to go to the DIY store first of all to get yourself some builder's tape. But I think that's a pretty good use of a few minutes of fun. Thanks so much for your company today. Do leave me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed today's episode. There you go. Always a sign of a good time. Leave comments or questions down below. It's always a joy to interact with you. If you haven't already subscribed, do consider hitting that subscribe button. I'd love to have your company on this creative journey. And happy crafting all.